Welcome to the Nerdynomicon. I'm Robbie.
I'm Brooke, and I'm eating gummy bears.
You made such a big deal about being on mic talking about the fact that you're eating gummy bears. Seriously.
But these gummy bears are like harder than usual. It really bothers me.
I thought you liked them harder than usual. Mm-mm. You prefer them nice and soft?
Yeah.
All right, well, that makes sense.
Well, you know my gummy bear preference.
Yeah, that's true. So we've got some stuff to talk about today.
Well, first and foremost, Adrian will not be joining us this episode, and we're not sure when he'll be back. He will be back, but just some stuff is going on, so he won't be back for a little bit. So if you're an Adrian,
probably like a week or two.
If you're an Adrian fan, this is where you can turn off, but we'd love you to stay. But if you leave, we'll just cry.
Yeah, we will, because we're talking about some really fun things today. We are going to postpone our Luke Cage discussion for about a week. Hopefully not 2 weeks, but until Adrian's back, because he rushed right through to make sure that he was ready for the Luke Cage conversation. So it's going to be spoilerific. We're going to go through the entire series because this was amazing.
I have to say it because he's not here. Adrian! Because he doesn't like when we do that.
So before we get into what I wanted to talk about this week, I wanted to touch base with you a little bit about the new Exorcist show on Fox.
Because if you guys remember from the last episode that we talked about this, I was really upset that instead of doing something, taking a long story, because I mean they were making a show about The Exorcist, instead of making it a story about mental illness and making it a story about, you know, leaving some subtleties, leaving something up to the imagination, They were like, oh look, there's actually somebody who's being possessed by a demon, woohoo! Like they didn't leave any subtlety, and they used just Catholic dogma, which really bothered me. Not that I have anything against Catholicism, and I don't think you
but
can,
it's cliche.
I don't think
it's
you can make an
used.
exorcism show without some kind of Catholicism, but almost every other religion in the world has exorcisms of some sorts.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you could have like had a rabbi, a reverend, a imam.
Imam.
I'm sorry to any Muslim listeners. I cannot say that word. An imam, a Buddhist monk. I'm sure they know how to. I mean, I don't know. I don't know many Buddhists. I could have.
There was
asked my
one
brother,
episode of A Haunting that I watched. Hungry Ghosts, I think was the name of the episode, where they had like a Shinto religion.
Hungry Ghosts.
Yeah, but they had some sort of like Buddhist or Shinto or something like that exorcism that took place in Japan. It was actually really interesting. It was really cool. Now, yes, I realize that show is over-dramatized.
Oh, yeah.
So, and we've even got a guest that's going to be coming on the show this month that's going to be talking about an episode of A Haunting. So that's going to be really, really interesting. So in this episode of The Exorcist, not only did we get some of that mental illness stuff, and now, granted, we as the viewers already know that she's being, at this point, the correct term is demonically oppressed. Not technically possessed at this point.
But see, that pisses me off then.
But, you know, you get the mental illness aspect, but that's not the part that I really wanted to talk about. It is still Catholic, but it's something that I've never seen before. Father Marcus, spoilers to anybody that watches this show.
To the two people that watch this show.
It's pretty popular. It's pretty popular.
It's only popular because it's Halloween. After Halloween is done, that show will go. Because
people
don't want to watch. That's the other problem I
possible.
have is people don't want to watch stuff about like ghosts and demons at like Christmas time unless it's a Christmas Carol.
Or Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Okay, no one wants to watch that. That's just you. But I mean, you definitely if you're gonna do horror, if you're gonna do horror around the holidays, it has to be like. Weirdly enough, it has to be holiday themed, like Krampus or Silent Night, Deadly Night or Black Christmas. It can't be like The Exorcist because that's too Halloween-y. So they should have started it in the summer when there was no, and then ended around Halloween. I think
if they were intelligent, they would have. But
I think it's really stupid that they started in the fall.
No station does shit like that.
A lot of stations have summer programming now.
They have summer programming, but not that wraps around into the fall because that gets away from their fall scheduling.
I don't know. I think
it's stupid, but it's
really
the way
stupid.
they do it.
I just think that they're going to get a slump around Christmas because no one's going to want to watch The Exorcist around Christmas. I mean, if you're going to
even I probably
if you're going to want to
watch it around Christmas.
The thing is, there are horror themed stuff that you can watch, like Gremlins.
Yeah, for sure.
Nightmare Before Christmas, which is a Halloween movie. Not a Christmas movie. Me and Robbie have fought about this for decades. Actually, we've only known each other for...
We've actually known each other for decades,
We've
just not all at one time.
Let's see. I met you when I was 13, and I'm not 13 anymore, so you do the math. I'm 12.
So,
I have the Benjamin Button disease.
So anyway, getting back to what I was saying, it's still Catholic and everything, but I've never seen it before. Father Marcus was excommunicated by the church, but let to know that the church has been infiltrated by demons and whatnot.
Which one is Father Marcus? Is it the...
He's the British guy.
Oh, I thought it was the hot guy.
No, he's still around, and he's still a big deal. But Father Marcus is the flat-out exorcist. Yeah. And he ends up going to an abbot and witnesses exorcism by nun, which is something I have never seen before, and I thought it was so amazingly cool. I didn't even know nuns
could do exorcisms.
I didn't either.
I don't think they can. I thought only priests could do them.
I'm not even positive about that.
I thought nuns could assist.
I'm not positive about that.
This sounds very, very sexist, so I do apologize. But I thought nuns were kind of like the nurses of the Catholicism. Like the priests are the doctors, and then nuns are the nurses. They're there to like wipe their brow.
Your analogy plays, at least in my understanding of it. I've got to be honest with you. I've never really given that much thought to the last time I really thought about it was when I was watching Sister Act.
I know the Catholic Church, as much as Pope Awesome has tried to really do, like he's at least brought it to like the 20th century. I'm aware we're in the 21st century. Pope Awesome has done his he was like, hey, you guys can use condoms so you don't get Zika and have like deformed children. Like God's okay with that.
I'm pretty sure
guys.
Zika is not an STD, but that's okay.
So you don't get pregnant. When you have Zika, I think you can get Zika through sexual intercourse.
Well, I'm saying that I'm not.
Point
sure
of the matter is,
the primary way you get it.
I know that the Catholic Church has made strides, but they're still one of the most like sexist organizations in the world. So that's why I don't know if nuns would be even allowed.
I don't know.
Maybe I think they actually are letting women at least learn like the history of exorcism, but I don't know. I don't know about the inner workings of the Vatican.
But it was really cool to see a Mother Superior essentially perform this exorcism in a completely different way, and Father Marcus was kind of brought in to learn that new strategy. It was really, really cool, really, really interesting. And again, it's Catholic, but at least it's showing some sort of progression.
No, but
you know what I mean? It's not more of
like,
the same.
That's fine. What are they going to do in episode 6? Like they're no offense, they're blowing their load like real fast. Like they are. They should have. Agree. I feel like if they were going to do this, the first half of the season should have been: is she even possessed?
Yeah.
Weird things happening. I mean, what is this race to the like? If they're going to be on episode 12 and have the exorcism, and then you're going to be like, okay, now what happens? Like,
honestly, I personally would kind of hope that this is one of those shows that have a shorter season, like only does a half-year run, because you're right. Who really wants to watch The Exorcist during Christmas, and then have something else fill its spring slot? That's what I would like to see. That way they don't keep on running out of material, because I don't know how they're going to make it to 22 with this show. I mean, I'm enjoying what they're doing, but let's be honest. I mean, there's only so much you can do with this type of subject matter.
I'm just also sick and tired of them, and I'm sorry. Every couple of years there's a new theme. And this year the last 2 years, it seems to be like making movies into TV shows, and it works sometimes and it doesn't work other times.
Right.
But I feel like I'm getting kind of bored of it. Like, The Exorcist,
Rush Hour, Lethal Weapon.
Thank you. I couldn't remember the other ones. It's kind of like, guys, come
Minority Report.
Is that? I've never even heard of that.
Oh, it was canceled last year. It was awful. It was abominable.
I mean, I know it works sometimes, like Teen Wolf, but they completely changed Teen Wolf. I think they just kept the name.
Basically, yeah.
And
I mean, he's playing lacrosse, not basketball. So.
Well, I feel like lacrosse makes more sense.
I agree.
I never quite understood.
Completely agree.
I never quite understood how being a wolf made you good at basketball.
Maybe the jumping? I don't know.
Do wolves know how to jump?
I don't know that much about wolves.
This is why we need Adrian. He's the ambassador to wolves.
This is why we need Kanye
West. He's going to fix wolves.
Yeah, he is going to fix wolves.
He's going to fix wolves.
I didn't even realize that Wolves was the name of a song off of one of his CDs. I literally just thought he was planning on skulking through the forest.
You mean one of his albums?
Yeah, whatever. I just thought he was going to skulk through the forest, literally fixing wolves. And even in that, I didn't know if he was giving them like bionic limbs or castrating them.
You ever want to have a good day? Read Kanye West tweets and read Jaden Smith tweets. That'll make you laugh. That'll warm your heart, because I think Jaden Smith might be actually insane. Like, everyone's
it's possible.
Like, oh no, he's just a weird hipster. I'm like, no, I think he might actually be like schizophrenic, because the stuff he says, I don't think he's trying to be funny. I think he genuinely thinks trees are blue. I think he genuinely doesn't realize that people, like when he's like, oh my god, no one understands my struggle. It's like, yes, it must be hard to be Will Smith's kid. Parents just don't understand.
Dad bless you.
Dad bless you. But can he? I feel like Jaden Smith can't even unironically be like, parents just don't understand, Dad.
Oh, man, that would be such a good line to give to his dad, but you know he's never done it.
I don't think, because it's like, dude, your dad is literally like your dad was like the most famous movie star in the world.
At one point.
Your mom's best friend was Tupac. Like, I don't feel like you can relate to the common man.
Not at all. But enough about Jaden Smith, and enough about The Exorcist. I just thought that was a really cool thing to have in episode 4. It was really cool. But what I want to talk about this week is creepypastas.
Dun, dun, dun!
Because there's a new show that just came out on Sci-Fi. The pilot episode just premiered last week. It's called Channel Zero.
How was that? I didn't watch it because I have a baby.
It's true. I'll get to the review in just one second. For those of you who don't know what Channel Zero is, it's kind of, and I'm surprised it took them this long to rip off the format, it's another thing kind of like American Horror Story, where every season it's going to follow a completely different story. Only this time I'm pretty sure it's not going to wrap around in the mythos like American Horror Story does.
I'm very impressed with how American Horror Story has done that. Like, they've done it very subtly. Like, we'll go back to what you were saying, but I have to say, spoiler for people who haven't seen the new season. Roanoke. They have it so that, like, one of the characters in this season is related to one of the characters in season 4, but if you weren't paying attention, you wouldn't have gotten it. Like, it was so, if you're not a big fan, you're like, I mean, like, if you like Robbie,
because they only said the last name,
they only said the last name, and they only said Florida. So if you weren't paying attention to the one season, you would have been like, I don't get that. And how, like, the line died out, and it was like, that is what happened. And she even said, though, but if you listen to season 4, she even said, no, insanity has run through our line.
Yes, she did say that.
And I don't know. I feel like I have to give Ryan Murphy credit. I really do think he has been actually paying attention, because he's really connected the storylines really well.
He has. They've really had a decent thread throughout. 1, 5, and 3 are related, and 2, 4, and 6 are related, but I don't think I don't think they're all related. I think 1, because 1 and 5 had made five made a lot of references to 1. Yeah.
And then 3 is Coven, and Coven, there was actually a character in Coven in 5.
Yes.
The human voodoo doll. And then 2, which is Asylum, and Freak Show are obviously connected because they have the same character. And then we've just found out that 6 is connected.
Yes, specifically to 4.
To 4, but they've never connected the other story. So I think you're right about that. I think 2, honestly. 4, and 6 are one.
Like every other year they connect.
And 1, 3, and 5 are another storyline. Although I don't know, didn't know. I don't think so, because No, I think I'm right. I feel like somewhere in Asylum they connected something to season 1, but.
I don't remember that. I don't remember them connecting anything to season 1 and season 2.
But
I don't remember that at all.
We at least know 3, 5, 1, 3, and 5 are related, and 2, 4, and 6 are related.
Yes.
What I'm hoping is that they're alternate realities of each other. Although I'd love them.
That'd be interesting.
I'd love them to make it one giant, like, alternate, like, reality where you can have Jimmy hanging out with, like, Jimmy Darling hanging out with, like, Tate Langdon in one season, and you're just like, this is too much Evan Peters. I can't deal with this much Evan Peters.
I don't think anybody can deal with that much Evan Peters.
Like, you have, like,
and he's winning me over as an actor.
You have, like, Marsh.
Damn.
You have, like, Marsh hanging out with, like, Tate, and you're like, okay, that's just too much. Like, those two Evan Peters need to go away. Like, Jimmy and Kip can hang out. That's
Marsh on this bus, Tate on this bus, okay?
Jimmy Darling and Kip can hang out. That's 2 and 4. They can hang out. They seem chill. They're the two chill ones. I guess 3 is too, because he's just a Frankenstein. Yeah, so those 3 can hang out, but the other ones can't hang out with each other. They all have to stay away from me. All Evan Peters have to go to other, like, rooms. Like, there's too many Evan Peters in this room.
And most of the Lily Reb characters can hang out with each other,
I think all the Sarah Paulson characters can hang out with each other. None of them really
the point about the Lily Reb characters is most of them are dead.
Most of them are insane.
Like Misty, dead.
Barney's mom, whose name I can never remember.
Loretta.
She can't hang out with her because one of them's an angel of death, so she definitely can't hang out with her.
Right.
Others.
Yep, that's true.
None of her characters can.
One of them's a maid, and that always bothers me.
I'd like to see the Kathy Bates characters hang out. I feel like that would be a battle royale.
Oh, that would just be delightful.
Oh, and the Angela Bassett characters.
Again, delightful.
Battle Royale, or the Dennis O'Hare, you know, the guy.
Yeah.
I want to see them all hang. I feel like the Axeman.
That would bother me.
The Axeman, the guy on fire, and Liz Taylor all together would be it'd be like, I don't understand what my brain, like, I feel
that's a lot of mayhem and a lot of intrigue.
That's too much for my brain to deal with, and I can't deal with it now that I'm thinking about it. I'm trying to think of other people who are on the shows. I don't want all the dandies to hang out with each other either, because there's only been 3. No, there's only been 2.
4 and 5. Now, granted, he played a couple of characters in 5.
You think he's gonna show? Has he shown up in 6 yet?
I don't think so.
No, he hasn't.
I don't think he has.
He hasn't, but I think he might.
Yeah,
I think
probably.
He's on the list. Not everyone comes back.
No, not everyone comes back, but I'm pretty sure I saw him on the list too.
Well, I mean, Evan Peters just showed up.
Right. So
All the Lady Gagas can hang out with each other, too.
Yeah, both of them.
I'm sorry, guys. I got off on a tangent. But I know people like our American Horror Story stuff.
Yeah. That a lot of people really enjoyed that episode.
I just wanted to say that, like, all the Evan Peters, if you take anything from this podcast, all the Evan Peters have to hang out in separate rooms.
Yes.
They can't hang out with each other.
They can't hang out together.
Because that would hurt. Although I'm pretty sure 3 and 1 are the same person. Like, they didn't even bother, like, dyeing Evan's hair at that point. They're like, you're fine.
Yeah, pretty much.
Then again, 2 and 4, I think they were kind of the same haircut.
Similar, but they also took place within the same decade, and that was a very popular hairstyle.
One is a lobster man.
Yeah, one is a lobster. And a whore. He's a bit of a whore.
He's a literal whore.
Yes.
He literally has sex for money.
Yes.
And his family seems kind of okay with that, and I'm like...
He was carny stock. That's what carny stock used to do.
I know, baby, you are carny stock.
I'm not carny stock.
His family used to own a sugar waffle stand, okay, that went around with carnivals. What would you call that? Sugar
not
waffle?
Carny stock. I'm not carny stock. That was my great-great-grandparents.
But you come from them, so you are carny stock.
Part carny stock.
Oh, baby, it's like that's all that it takes.
Oh.
It's like, if you have a little bit of Native American in you can claim to be Native American.
Yeah, but I can't get any sort of college discounts for having carny blood.
They will soon. Someday that they'll recognize that as the minority.
This part of the podcast is going to end up informing the plot for the next Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Yeah, totally.
You remember how they were all terrified of hillbillies? Now they're going to be all terrified about carny folk.
Well, let me explain why.
Which makes sense.
Carnies are scary because they hang out with clowns.
Okay, you know what? We're done with this. We're going back to Channel Zero.
I saw American Horror Story Carnival, Freak Show, pardon me, and I also watched Carnival. I'm just saying, carnivals are scary. Because there's clearly witch
struggles
magic.
Between good and evil, I agree.
I mean, every time I go to the fair, I had no idea there was a struggle for good and evil at all times. No wonder,
Oh, yeah, there is.
Like, I feel like the sugar waffle people and the fried dough people are always fighting.
We're sage-like.
Are always fighting the guy with the balloon, with the darts and the balloon.
It's because he works for the Dark Lords.
That guy clearly is the Dark Lord.
Yeah, it's true.
Because that prize, or the people with the where you have to throw the rings onto the soda can or the bottles. That guy's clearly the devil because you win fish, which is just weird. I don't want to win fish. That's my point.
Okay, so back to Channel Zero.
So boogie boarding.
All right, so before we fell down that rabbit hole, basically what Channel Zero is every season is going to explore a different story. And the cool thing about this, just because I have been in love with this phenomena for years and years, is the themes for these are all creepypasta. And the very first season deals with one of my favorite of all time.
Candle Cove, the greatest one of all time besides Normal Porn for Normal People. And if they ever make that a season,
that's going to be horrifying.
I would literally cry my eyes out. That's such a... I cannot even think. Like, Normal Porn for Normal People, I'm still afraid of. Like,
I get that.
I
remember how much you were freaked out by the Russian sleep experiment,
Oh, don't even talk to me about that one either. I hate that one.
It was... God of the Mind or whatever it was, that one didn't bother you.
That one pisses me off.
Yeah. But Russian Sleep Experiment, I know that one got you.
Sleep Experiment, and but let me explain something. I have a problem with creepypastas in one simple reason. My thing is, like, I feel like people don't discern creepypastas from scary stories. And I listen to Mr. Creepypasta, who you've had on the show or some show or whatever.
It was Polygon Table. Yeah, he's going to be on this show as well, too.
And the thing is he will read I don't know how he finds them. I don't know if he, like, scours the internet or people send them to him. But anyways, he'll read some. To me, I feel like creepypastas should be scary stories that couldn't have existed 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 30 years ago because the technology didn't exist. I feel like a creepypasta has to be an internet or technology-based phenomenon. So, like, Candle Cove worked because it was people on a chat room talking.
Yes.
Or, like, all the Pokemon pastas work because they didn't have video games in 1822.
Right,
or
like Ben Drowned.
Then the ones with, like, on the internet where, like, they got into a chat room with somebody who turned out to be like, oh, I'm right behind you, and they were, like, actually, like, a demon in the Normal Porn for Normal People.
Funny Face, that one actually really bothered me.
Normal Porn for Normal People is a great example of that.
That's a perfect example.
That story literally couldn't have existed in 1970. It couldn't have because the technology... So when they just read scary stories where it's just, like, it could have... like, I could have seen Edgar Allan Poe writing the storyline. To me, that's just a scary story. I feel like creepypastas need to be defined as things that exist because of the technology.
Right.
Like The Ring is probably the best example of like an early creepypasta in my mind.
Yeah.
Because it couldn't have existed before the VCR.
Yes.
Like to me a creepypasta has to be something that only exists because of the technology that has allowed it to exist. The few examples to that are something like Pen Pal, which still scares me.
Pen Pal was scary. That was horrifying.
Or Tim the Caver, but the reason Tim the Caver works is it was set up to be like a website. Yeah, like
it was
forums
forum
or
posts.
websites.
Like on 1999 was like
1999
that as well.
is another great example.
We're gonna continue on with this episode as is, but we really should do an episode where we talk about some of our favorites, like do like a top 10 list.
So good.
We really should do that episode.
So that's
this
the
month.
problem I'm having with creepypastas. I feel like people are getting creepypastas and scary stories confused, and I've noticed it because I have listened to Mr. Creepypasta more and more as it becomes a bigger medium. People are just writing scary stories.
Right.
And they're not necessarily creepypastas. Now, ones that exist that work are ones like the Smiling Man works in my mind as a creepypasta because it's more of like an urban legend.
And that was also an account from a guy who, to this day, claims that was true.
The thing is, I buy that happened. That guy was probably
unquestionably.
The guy was probably just. He even said the guy was probably just on drugs.
And we're actually going back to the Smiling Man in this episode too, so we're gonna put a pin in that one. We're
but
going back to that.
I do think the guy was just. I think it did happen. I bet you the guy was just on drugs.
Yeah, on drugs, drunk, possibly nuts.
Yeah, he could have just been nuts.
Yeah, agreed.
But when I saw the short film of that was like the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
we're gonna go back to that. We're gonna go back to that. But that's the only thing I want to discern as a person who before we continue, I hope that they actually
now
do
season 2 for
creepy pastas as opposed to like scary stories.
Now season 2 for Channel Zero is going to be No End House.
Oh, see, that one's really good. I like that one. I was afraid it's going to be something stupid like Jeff the Killer, which I hate that one.
I hated Jeff the Killer too.
Squidward Suicide is another great one that is like, it works as a creepypasta because it couldn't have existed.
Right.
Yes, because again, it's set up like a blog post. That's what I'm saying. I think it has to do with the way it's formatted or the technology that's used. You could talk about something that happened to you in 1970, but it has to be like, it's like, oh, this is on a forum, or oh, this is my blog.
Exactly.
It has to be set up like that. To me, if it's just like some of them are just scary stories, and to me, I'm like, that's fine. And the other thing I can't handle is when they start to get really graphic, like the one with the My Little Pony. I had to turn it off. It's the only one I've ever had to turn off.
Yeah.
Because
for me, it was Smiling Jack.
It was just
It was
gross.
like the origin of Smiling Jack. I hated that one.
It was just
I had
gross.
to turn it off. Yeah. At that point, it turned into an Eli Roth writing fest. It was awful. And sadly, I actually like a lot of Eli Roth's movies, but I don't want to hear them while I'm driving around.
I think Eli Roth is a sexy man. If he's listening, I think you're sexy. I know you're married. I'm married. I'm just saying you're hot.
Fair
so
enough.
You can call me.
All right, so let's get on to Candle Cove. You actually touched on this already.
I love Candle Cove.
Now, the original story of Candle Cove was set up
like a bunch of people
talking
about a show they couldn't remember, which to me really was awesome because how many of us have a show that we remember watching as a kid? I remember watching an anime of like The Wizard of Oz, but no one else remembers it but me.
I don't remember it in anime form. I remember in animated form.
It
but
might
not
have
in
been
anime.
animated form, but I feel like it was anime. But you have to understand, when I was young, anime was just coming to America, and my brother's a lot older than me. Well, he was a lot older than me.
Yeah.
He and his friends liked it. They liked it when it was still called Japanimation.
I got into it again with sci-fi. They had the Saturday anime, and I saw some amazing.
They didn't know it was
that.
called anime. They thought it was called Japanimation.
Right.
So I remember it back. So I might have been getting like my memory's all confused.
Which is
but
possible.
I swear to God, there was an anime version of The Wizard of Oz, and it was on like Saturday. But it might have also been Alice in Wonderland. But there was also a live action Alice in Wonderland on Disney Channel.
Adventures in Wonderland.
That I didn't think. I thought I made that up.
Adventures in Wonderland.
And then other people.
The Queen of Hearts was black.
Yes, and then they had a big Hollywood sign, but it said Wonderland. And then like there was an episode where
that was an amazing
the
show.
Mad Hatter was afraid to get his vaccinations.
Yeah.
And they had to trick him. I don't know why. I think that's so funny now that I'm older.
Yep, that was called Adventures in Wonderland.
It was such a good show. The Dormouse was like talked backwards. It was really cool. I loved it.
But that's a perfect example. I mean, what you're talking about with
either
Alice in Wonderland or...
But we all have that thing as a kid that we're not exactly sure was real.
There was one called The Koala Show when I was younger. I have no idea if this show actually existed.
That's how I feel about this movie. I swear I watched called We Sing in Sillyville, and I swear to God I rented it 900 times. And it's about this woman who lost all of her colors, and she lived in a color town, which sounds really racist, but it was like the greens and the purples and the reds. Mm-hmm. And like she lost her color because they all started fighting, and then she twisted her ankle, and they all helped her, and then her colors came back. It was awesome. Why are you looking at me?
I don't even know what to say to that.
It was so good.
But,
There's a singing rock.
okay.
There was a singing rock that was like insane. It was so good. I would watch that now with my kid.
I think somebody did something to your brownies when you were a kid, but that's okay.
No,
that's
a real.
okay.
I think if I asked my mom, she'd know what I was saying.
But the way the original story was set up was in these forum posts, people just saying, and it starts out, hey, do you remember a show called Candle Cove?
And then there's a twist at the end, which is the best.
Yes. The whole idea, spoilers for the original creepypasta, by the way, here. So the whole idea about the show is it was a very, very, very low budget puppet show that had like maybe 1, 2, or maybe even 3 actual human
I thought
kids.
it was just one human kid. It was a little girl.
There was a little girl, but I could have
Tina
sworn
or whatever.
It might have been Tina. I could have sworn that they had more further in because there were more creepypastas that kind of explored the mythos. But there was at least
original,
one.
There was the little girl.
Yeah, there was the
and
little
the rest
girl.
were all puppets.
Yep. You had the Laughing Stock, which was the name of the boat. Adorable, delightful. Pirate Percy, and the Skin Taker.
Skin Taker.
Ooh. And
I
everybody
never grind your skin. It's so good.
And everybody started to just kind of put fragments of their memories together. And there was one episode in particular, the last episode,
Where
or
they were
second
all
to last
screaming,
episode,
yeah.
which was called the Screaming episode.
They were all screaming.
And they literally, everybody on screen screamed for over 20 minutes.
But there was also weird stuff that happened on
Yeah.
set that people would like, oh, I was on the show, and like a bunch of people got attacked, and one
Yes.
the creator was always talking to himself.
Yep.
But the reason it's great is, spoiler, at the end, the kid goes, I asked my mom about that, and she's like, oh no, you're talking about that weird thing you used to do where you just watch static for an hour every day. And you're just like,
And
what?
And the frightening part is it's obvious that all of these people remember it. So, it kind of leaves you with that paradigm. Is it a shared delusion, or did the show actually exist? And it's so
I'd really
cool.
like them to make, but I don't think they will since they did Candle Cups. I'd love for them to make 1999.
Oh my God, that would be incredible.
That one is scary.
It would be. It really is, with Mr. Bear and everything. A show, a creepypasta with a character named Mr. Bear.
And the
it's
hand
frightening.
puppets that like stab each other.
Yeah, what was it,
Scary.
Booby?
Booby.
Yeah.
Booby. It's a blue
So-
hand that like stabs, like rips off people. Oh,
Ugh.
so fucking scary, guys. So scary.
That is the subject matter for Channel Zero.
That sounds cool. Is it they do it well or is it stupid?
Now, here's what I have to say about it. I'm going to give my only negative first. They changed the name of the Skin Taker to Jawbone. I realize that that's stupid for me to be
No, but
up
that
in
bothers
arms
me.
about.
Skin Taker is way scarier to me than Jawbone.
I agree.
Jawbone sounds like kind of like a porn.
I agree with you.
Like it sounds like the porn version of Candle Cove. Like, ooh, it's Jawbone.
But that is really my number one negative. It does start out a little bit slow, but you can tell that they're doing it for atmospheric purposes.
I have no problem with slow.
Neither do I.
TV can go
it's
slow.
the opposite of what The Exorcist
It's not
was
Game
doing.
of Thrones where they have 7,000 pages to put into like two episodes.
Right. So, it starts out a little bit slow, but overall, I have to be honest with you, I thought it was really, really, really impressive. The number one thing that I really want to talk about just the way it was shot is sci-fi has a certain sheen that all of their shows tend to have. You know what I mean? Whether it goes from Stargate to Battlestar to... And I love those shows, even as much as Dark Matter.
I love Dark Matter. Why are we not talking about Dark Matter?
Oh, we'll talk about Dark Matter. They all have a certain look to them. A certain aesthetic where you can tell that it's a sci-fi show. Not that it's necessarily a bad thing, because I loved all of those shows. But you can tell it's sci-fi. This show doesn't have that. The filters that they use make it look like it would be more at home at FX or AMC or something like that.
Does it have a jangly guitar opening like they made fun of on Portlandia?
It does not. It does not have one of those. But it does have a very cool aesthetic look, which I definitely like. It starts out very, very ominous and gives you exposition right away, which a lot of shows don't really do. They kind of set the scene, introduce you to the characters, and then give you some exposition. This show actually took it in the reverse with a, spoiler alert here, with a nightmare that the main character is having. And the way it's presented is actually very unnerving, where you see the camera guys are mannequins. And it's very, very unnerving. The main character's, I forget his name, but it's played by the guy that played Mark Brandanowitz in Community. Parks and Rec. Parks and Recreation. Played by the same guy that played
Is he
Mark
better than he was as Mark Brandanowitz?
Yes. Oh my God, he's fantastic.
I feel bad because I feel like they were going somewhere with Mark Brandanowitz and he didn't quite work. I think
he just wasn't popular.
People like connected with Andy more. I think you were supposed to
Yes.
like vote. You were supposed to like root for Mark over Andy, but I mean Chris. oh my God. Chris, what is his name? Which Chris
Pratt?
is that? Thank you. Chris Pratt is so charming that you were just like, I love Chris Pratt. And I feel like especially like when Ben showed up.
Oh, Ben Wyatt is my jam, dude.
Like, they were just so charming that I feel like Mark Brandanowitz, I don't think they ever knew who that character was.
I agree.
And I don't think it was the actor. I just think that they
Not
don't.
At all. They didn't know how to give him a voice.
The thing is, I don't think they wanted Leslie to have him as her love interest, and he didn't work with Anne. Because as much as I love Anne, and I do, Anne can be a boring character. That's why she needs someone like Chris. And I feel like, because she's not a bland character. She's a well-written character, but she's probably the straightest of the straight men on that show. She is the straight man of that show. And so and I feel like Mark Brandanowitz was the straight man of the show, and you didn't need two straight men on that show.
Paul Schneider, that's his name.
But do you see what I'm saying? Like, Anne was the straight man. You didn't also need Mark.
Yeah, you didn't also need Mark, because that could get very boring.
It did get boring when they did. Yes. They were a very boring couple, because I feel like Anne...
They were Magoo.
Anne anchored the show as like the one normal person. The rest of them all kind of like revolved around. Right. And then when you added him too, it was kind of like, this is boring. I want to watch Leslie go on wacky park adventures.
Paul does not play this character Magoo and boring or anything like that. He plays him very earnest, very stunted, very stilted, childish almost. And I don't mean childish as in immature. I mean childish as in regressive. It's very, very cool the way he does it.
He's a good actor.
He's a very good actor, and he does great with this. They show the puppets in this episode as well. Only a couple of the puppets, but they made them look perfectly low budget with the strings coming off of them and everything. They're supposed to look like...
They're marionettes, so you're going to see the strings.
But they made them look like they were slapped together with $12 and a stick of glue.
Speaking of marionettes, do you think that Mr. Rogers was ever freaked out on set if he was ever alone? With all those fucking puppets everywhere?
I cannot attest to that, but I would be.
Like, I feel like Mr.
There's something weird about puppets, dude. There's something real weird about puppets.
There's something real weird about puppets, but I always feel like he was like a really calm guy, really smart. But I always wondered if he was like scared on set. If he was ever like, I don't want to be alone with these weird puppets in Imagination Land.
He has that kind of unhinged, frightening demeanor, so I doubt it.
He's not frightening. I love Mr. Rogers.
He's got those eyes that are intense.
My mom hates Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, I know she does.
She is convinced it's a show about a pedophile, and I'm like, that's creepy.
Well, he is rocking a Cosby sweater.
He is not. He is rocking a cardigan, which is perfectly acceptable. Anyways, nothing to do with candle. So
I love how you just corrected me with cardigan, and now all I hear in echoing in my head is cardigan.
Don't you dare quote Nick Miller like you're clever.
Oh, I am clever, but I'm not quoting Nick Miller. Anyway, what were you about to say before I so rudely interrupted you with cardigans?
I'm sorry. How was Channel Zero? So
Channel Zero, I liked it. I liked it a lot.
I didn't watch it. I might check it out.
It's worth checking out. It really,
is it
really
on
is.
Hulu?
It's not on Hulu, but it is streaming on the website.
On the website.
It's on demand on all the major providers. If there's still anybody out there that actually has a cable service.
My mom does.
I know she does. We don't. But it is streaming on the Sci-Fi website. I would love it if it came to Hulu. That way we didn't have commercials, but that's neither here nor there.
Commercials are the devil.
One interesting thing is there's an addition to this story, a creature made of teeth, which is kind of strange. There's a murder mystery. If anyone's ever
read my story, A Serial Killer's Guide to Romance, you know I have a strange thing about teeth.
You do.
So
there's a tooth monster that was very briefly shown. It was pretty prevalent in the trailers and the promos for the show, but you see it for probably about 15 seconds on the actual episode. Very disturbing. It looked, and this is a huge praise for me, it looked like it would be at home in the first two Silent Hills. The way it moved, the way it looked, it was
You mean the only
disturbing.
Silent Hill that made sense to have Pyramid Head in it?
Yeah, number 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then he was so popular, they brought him in, and I'm like, well, he's James Sunderland's, it's James, right?
Yes.
Manifestation of guilt.
Yes.
So it is a little weird that he's there tormenting Cheryl, but sure, okay, that makes sense, even though she basically runs Silent Hill. Never understood why she was afraid. Cheryl could basically just be like, screw you all, I am,
Are you talking about the movie or the game?
The game, because she's Alyssa's...
He wasn't in the game.
Because she's Alyssa's other half. I don't understand why she was ever afraid in Silent Hill.
No idea.
She's Alyssa, so she could just be like, boo, shoo, boo, boo, boo.
She didn't know it until the end.
Well, that's her fault. Why didn't her
It's actually her dad's fault.
Why didn't her dad tell her?
I don't know. He's dead.
He's not dead.
In the game, he is.
That's sad.
You come home and he's dead. D-E-D, dead. But the point is, Tooth Monster would look perfect in any of the first 3 original games. Fits in perfectly. Yeah. And I mean that as a huge compliment. some of the flashbacks that they had as children, because we got flashbacks in this, and not done in a hokey way, and the child actors are almost on par with the child actors in Stranger Things. I don't know where they're finding these kids, but they got fucking acting chops.
I'm really, really excited to see their future DUIs.
I am too.
I'm really excited to see their future Lindsay Lohans.
Some of these kids are better than she was as a kid.
I'm just taking bets. Which one do you think is going to have the most mugshots?
I'm going to say the chubby kid from Stranger Things.
Oh, yeah. The one with the weird teeth? Yeah. Totally. No offense, I'm not making fun of a kid. He's adorable.
He's probably the best actor out of all of them.
I do think it's funny that, like, it's funny to watch them now, but I always feel uncomfortable watching child actors.
Right.
Because you're like, okay, you're going to totally have a coke problem.
Yep.
Like, we can't all be Elijah Wood.
No. Most of us end up being one of the...
DiCaprio.
No, most of us ended up being one of the Coreys.
Oh,
half dead.
Corys.
That was a terrible joke, but it's true. So the kids, phenomenal in there. Some of the bullying is actually cringeworthy. There's noises, there's sounds and everything disturbing. But this show was better than I anticipated, especially for a sci-fi original series. Better than I anticipated. Because sci-fi has a way of maybe making one out of every 4 or 5 shows actually watchable.
I like their competitions.
Their competitions are fun. Don't get me wrong, they're fun. But the last good show that came out of there that actually stuck around was probably Dark Matter.
Love Dark Matter. Started watching that randomly when I was on maternity leave, and it was really good.
I know. So that was the last one that was actually worth watching that didn't get canceled. So there was that one show that they had about angels that was based off...
Defiance is supposed to be really good, or was supposed to be really good.
Yeah, and that got canceled. That one took me a while to start watching, but it was good. But long and short of it, this was definitely a show that I really recommend, especially for people that are into creepypasta. There are changes with the lore, and that's something that kind of bothers me, because if you're going to have something based on a creepypasta that's nothing but lore...
Maybe it was easier for writing, like, it'll make sense later.
Maybe, but at the same time, all Candle Cove was lore.
No, I
I mean, you can have
so
your
how
whole
do you know
original story.
How do you know they're doing No End House next?
It's already been released.
I love No End House.
They've already confirmed that this one was going to be Candle Cove, and then No End House is going to be the next one.
No End House would have been a really good American Horror Story season.
It would have. It would have.
Like a really good American Horror Story season.
This is the only thing I'm going to say, and then we can wrap it up with Channel Zero. I just wanted to say this about American Horror Story. I almost want to apologize for the shots I was taking at Ryan Murphy.
Oh, Ryan Murphy, you're a genius.
He's so concise and streamlined this season. I think he's fantastic.
To be fair, though, we're getting into the second half. It could go off the rails.
It could, but it usually starts at this point.
The first 6 episodes were on point. Like,
yes, they were.
He kept that... Honestly,
this is undoubtedly the best season of American Horror Story. If he can do next season
something like a really small cast, like pick 2 people he really likes and just focus on them,
right?
I feel like that's what he needs to do. I think that's why this season did so well. Is it really is only focusing on 3 people. Like, there's a lot of other characters, but it's focusing on those 3.
Yes,
that's why I'm afraid for the second half. Because it looks like it's going to be a whole bunch of people, and I'm afraid.
Yeah, but it's going to be a host and a camera crew.
It's going to be like Paranormal Activity, or it's going to be like Blair Witch style. Which
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. It's a style that he hasn't done.
Do you think he was just bored? Do you think he was like, okay, I've done enough fantastic stuff. I want to do something really like gritty and small.
Maybe. And frankly, I'm not going to speculate, and I don't care, because more of that, less of everything else.
We make fun of Ryan, but we do forget Brad Fulchuk is also his like writing partner. Maybe Brad took over, and Brad was like, okay, we need to break this up.
Possible.
We need to bring this back.
That's one thing that I hope Channel Zero does not do, however, is continuously use the same actors. Ryan Murphy has been able to do it. He's been able to do it effectively, but I'm not sure how well it's going to work with different creepypasta. I'm fine with cameos, just don't have them all as central leads.
I love the way Ryan Murphy has done it. I genuinely enjoy seeing Sarah every season and I feel like they're my friends. I've seen Evan every season.
As much as I agree with you, they all have a mythos that ties in together. These... They shouldn't.
I'm just saying. I genuinely really enjoy seeing Evan every season and Sarah every season. I'm sad. I miss Jessica.
I do too. But you know what? It works for American Horror Story. I don't think it would work for something like Channel Zero. Well, I really don't. And I like how it's only going to have 6 episodes for this season. I love that.
Yeah, because that could go too long.
Exactly. You give us a good taste of what you can do. You give us a good sample of Candle Cove. You know, I just hope that they start bringing the French a little bit harder with it. But
if it was me, I would have started out with a lesser known, like Tim the Caver, because I feel like that's really a solid. Like, how scary would that one be?
That would be terrifying.
It would basically be The Descent for 6 episodes. I'd be like, oh, for sure. And I would make sure to make it really, really, really like. Because that whole...
Claustrophobic.
Even if you don't get to the
anything.
end, like where you find out what's actually happening in the cave, that's still a freaking scary... Where they're going through... Oh, my God. When they're going... I'm going to just tell people, they're going through a passage that's literally only big, and you can't even back up if you get stuck, so you're basically dead. I literally was having like a heart attack while reading that.
Now, this is the second part of what I wanted to talk about. There's been several adaptations, however small, of really cool creepypasta, you know, whether it be from Reddit's No Sleep. Speaking of No Sleep, shout out to David Cummings. Or from I Hope We Don't Meet. One of the best ones, I mean, now we've got Candle Cove with Channel Zero. Now we've got Candle Cove with Channel Zero. One of the best ones really was, you brought it up earlier, The Smiling Man. That YouTube
scary.
show. It's like 2 minutes long and it's horrifying. What other ones do you think would work? Whether it be in short form or longer form. I mean, we're getting no end house. I agree with you about Tim the Caver.
Normal porn for normal people would be amazing, but it would just be really scary. Like, it's really, really scary.
It is.
I would say that one would be good. Tim the Caver would be great. I feel like Pen Pal could be a really good one, but I feel like
Oof.
Again, I don't know.
That one's so psychological if it's not made right.
It would be terrible.
Yeah.
They're already doing No End House, which I love. I'm trying to think of other really, really good ones. The problem is a lot of really good ones wouldn't work because they're like the Sonic the Hedgehog one, or the
they're
Godzilla
based on
one.
other IP,
Yeah.
and you'd end up getting sued. I would love to see Ben drowned, but I'm not sure how they could get away with that with The Legend of Zelda.
I feel like a lot, and Nintendo doesn't give anybody anything.
No, I mean you're definitely not
Nintendo is
getting
like the
Pokemon
Beatles.
ones.
You have to, if you're gonna get the Beatles, it's like $1 billion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
I still don't know how they got some of those characters licensed for Wreck-It Ralph.
Disney can afford it.
Yes, they can.
Disney probably makes more than Nintendo in 1 hour.
It's possible.
Also, Disney
Totally
owns
possible.
everything now. They could probably be like, hey, you know what?
Hey, you got to
We
pay the
own
mouse. Got to pay the mouse. But I would love to see Ben
honestly,
drown,
I
but
feel
that's
like
never going to happen.
I don't know enough of them offhand. If you would have asked me this 2 years ago, I would have been able to tell you, but I haven't listened to any because I started getting bored because they started becoming scary stories, not creepypastas.
Right.
And I started getting bored. Like, I don't know what it's been. I don't blame Mr. Creepypasta because I know he doesn't write them, but he's been picking really boring ones lately. Like, I don't know if it's just that's what's out there and he's doing the best he can. I actually I would buy that from what you've told me. I think that Mr. Creepypasta is a really nice guy.
Oh, he's
And I
one of
feel
the
like
coolest
he's
people I've
getting
ever
stuff
talked to
sent
on
to
the
him,
show.
and he's like a really nice guy and he'll
Yeah.
do it. But I feel like, I don't know if it's just the quality isn't there, but I just feel like lately, like, they've been really bad and really boring.
There have been some rough ones, yeah.
Let me think. The Showers, you seem to love that one.
I love The Showers. Oh, I would love to see The Showers.
The Showers.
That would make a good short season.
The Black Eyed Children, but that's not really a creepypasta to me. To me, that's more of a
Phenomenon.
an urban legend.
Well, that's originally what creepypastas were, was
Yes,
internet
but I feel
urban
like
legends.
that's an urban
But
legend.
I agree with you. I don't know how you could turn something like that into an actual show or anything like that. I see what you're saying. We've seen a lot of Slender Man.
I think the Goatman one would be really interesting.
Oh, yeah, Anisi's Goatman story.
I feel like that one would be...
That would be awesome.
Like, because but again, it'd have to be so psychological, and it would have to be so much like you put an extra actor in the scene, but don't tell anyone, and then all of a sudden it's like, where did that extra actor?
If you shot that like John Carpenter shot Halloween, always have something extra in the shot. You would definitely capture that paranoid feeling that...
Or how Stanley Kubrick shot A Clockwork Orange, where he changed the color of the phone in one frame, then all the other frames would be white, and then one frame would be red. Or he'd like move stuff around and like not tell the actor, so the actors would be like, "Where did that go?" So that he could never get the same shot twice. Mm-hmm. So like he'd put the phone on stage left, and so for one scene, so then like Malcolm McDowell would go pick it up, and then the next scene would be like stage right, and he'd be like, where did the phone go?
Right.
Like, I don't understand what happened. So I think it'd have to be done like that. It'd have to be very disorienting. I'm trying to think of ones I liked. I don't know.
I think it would be cool to see Slender Man. I mean, you see a lot of them on YouTube.
After what happened with those little girls, though, I think that Slender Man needs to...
I keep forgetting
no
about
offense,
that.
the
Yeah,
Slender Man
that's
needs
true.
to die. After what happened with those little girls.
Yeah. I mean, we got the video games. We got a lot of YouTube stuff.
Plus, the video game works. It's really great. But
Slender is phenomenal.
Honestly, after what happened with those little girls, I think the Slender Man is
You're
one
right.
that he needs to take off his hat. He needs to retire. He needs to go to wherever creepypastas go when they retire. I'm assuming Fiji.
Okay.
I feel like that's where they go to retire. I'd love to see I'm not going to say this because I don't want someone to rip off my idea. I was actually thinking of writing my own story, so I'm going to stay quiet.
Okay. All right. The last one I'm going to bring up is, and you already said it earlier, 1999. I would love to see that.
1999.
You brought up The Showers. That's one of my all-time favorites. I love The Showers. It's so good.
Honestly, there's a bunch of other ones that I probably do think would be really good. I just can't think of them right now.
Mm-hmm. Why don't we revisit this portion of the conversation when we do our top lists for creepypasta?
Yeah, I think that's what we should do.
All right. So in long and short of it, just to wrap up here, Channel Zero, check it out. Slow burn horror based on Candle Cove, one of the best creepypastas ever written. Definitely check that out. Exorcist, episode 4 of the first season, brought something new, brought something really interesting to the fold with nuns performing an exorcism. That's basically where I am. Do you have anything that you want to wrap us up with?
What do you mean?
Any emotional rants? Any shout-outs?
I have
or
two
anything
things
like
I have to do first, and then I do actually have a emotional rant, since it is that time. I'm not going to start with my Saw rant, but I am going to start with my Purge rant, but I'm not going to do that first. First things first, for all the people out there, if you, I don't know if you know this, I'm a writer. I'm trying to get stuff published. So if you are interested at all to read my stuff, please do. It's on Wattpad, which is WATTPAD.com. It's also an app you can download. And look for me. It's B. Heatley, just B. Heatley. My stories are A Serial Killer's Guide to Romance and 1.8.7. 187 is about a psychic girl who has a vision about a school shooting and has to stop it. And A Serial Killer's Guide to Romance is literally a serial killer's guide to romance. It
really is.
It's about a serial killer who falls in love with somebody, and it's a really Robbie.
Very dark comedy.
It's dark. I mean, it's meant to be funny. Like, I mean it to be a joke. Actually, I was making fun of, like, 50 Shades of Grey, because I'm convinced Kristen Grey, because I did read it, has like hookers in the meat closet. Just the way I've read that story.
Oh God, yeah.
The way I read it, because I did read it, I was like, okay, this guy's not sexy. Everyone's like, oh my God, he's so sexy. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that guy's just Ted Bundy. I'm pretty sure the writer is fucking with you all. Like, she just wrote Ted Bundy because he's so fucking creepy. He's like, I'm going to control your life.
He's Donald Trump with charm.
And you're like, oh, the contract, and oh, so creepy. So I was like, so that's why I wrote this story, because I was so sick and tired of reading these really, really, like, emotionally abusive men. I'm sorry. It wasn't romantic when Heathcliff did it in Wuthering Heights. It's not romantic when Edward does it in Twilight. And Heathcliff was actually written to be insane. So just throwing that out there. Yeah. So that's my reaction to that, is A Serial Killer's Guide to Romance. And actually, the thing that's really disturbing me, which I do love, I'm really excited about it, is people are loving it, but it's a lot of girls that are loving it. I'm like, okay, I really hope that you guys are getting this joke. I don't want you to think that Conrad is attractive.
This isn't a Harley Joker situation here.
No, but the thing is, Harley and Joker, the creators have even been like, I think it's really disturbing that girls are thinking it's attractive.
No, I agree with that.
Actually,
but people see that.
This is going to be my emotional rant. I've already kind of done this one, but I need to. This is a baby emotional rant.
Okay, like a reiteration.
The Joker is not sexy. You do not want to be Harley Quinn. We're pretty sure he beats her, and he's threatened to kill her multiple times. He chokes her out a lot in the comic book. He's pimped her out. He's left her to die. That's not love. That's crazy. I think he's fond of her in his own way. Yeah, probably. I think most abusers are fond of their victim in some ways. Doesn't make it good. Most stalkers think that they're actually in a relationship with their victim. Doesn't mean it's romantic. It's creepy. And don't think guys like the Joker are attractive. So if you read my story, read it as a joke.
And that also goes for the guys out there. You know what I mean? Don't put your dick in crazy.
No, dude, that's crazy. If somebody is like, I'm going to fucking murder you, like, that's crazy. Like, that's not romantic. That's crazy.
Uh-huh.
Also, if you're dating a guy and you know for a fact he's a serial killer, you should probably call the cops. I'm just putting that out there. Like, a little bit. You should, if you know for a fact that your boyfriend is doing the stuff that Conrad does in my story, you should probably not read the compatibility quiz. You should.
And there's really no spoilers here. You're not burying the lead. It's called The Serial Killer's Guide to Romance.
It's about a serial killer and the girl who loves him.
Yes.
I'm not.
You're not burying a lead here. It's in the title.
At least 187, I have some ambiguity. You know.
True.
Although that's another
very cool book.
That's another thing. More girls are falling for Cameron than Jordan, and I'm like, but Cameron's the crazy one. People are crazy. Anyways, so read them, support them. I will love you forever. If you know a publisher, shout out to me. I don't care. But so my emotional rant, I'm going to start with The Purge. And then I'm going to go to Saw tomorrow, my next one. But this is my problems with The Purge. This is my emotional rant about The Purge. Well, let me go back. I don't like horror movies to begin with, as I've said several times, because I find it a lazy genre. Okay, it bothers me. But the problem I have with the Purge is I feel like the writers just thought of a cool concept and went with it, and not realizing the political ramifications of what they were doing. And I don't think they realized they made a mistake. They wrote the wrong genre. The Purge should not be a horror movie. It should be a political thriller. It should be
Couldn't agree more.
It should be people sitting around discussing whether or not the Purge is okay. And now I understand that that's what 3 was. I never got to 3 because I don't care. But I feel like they ripped me off because I had already made this point before that movie came out.
You've been talking about this for years.
I have, since the first Purge came out, I basically set up the plot of the third one, and then all of a sudden the third one came out, and I was like, oh, somebody owes me money. But anyways, it should not have been a horror movie, because I almost feel like it's almost the Hunger Games, just like on a smaller scale with less, with more people. It's just the Hunger Games. It shouldn't be that. It should be a bunch of people sitting around a table discussing.
Only the whole country is the cornucopia.
It should be like All the President's Men.
Yeah.
It should be a political thriller. And I feel like that would have been such an interesting movie. Mm-hmm. Like a bunch of people sitting around talking about, like, okay, is the Purge legal? People voting on it. And I think especially in the current culture, how we're about to elect Hitler. Sorry to any Trump supporters, but I swear to God, change Muslim with Jew, and you just have a Hitler rant. I mean, you do.
It's true.
Change Hitler to Jew. Change Mexican to Soviet, and Muslim to Jew, and you have a Hitler rant. It's crazy to me. But anyways, that's a different rant for a different day. I feel like that would have been such an interesting story. Like, how did the country get to that where they're like, yeah, let's murder people? I also think it'd be really a more interesting story if it was like talking about how the media is clearly being lied to. Like the media is clearly lying. Clearly there's no way in hell that crime is only happening 1 day a week. If there's no way in hell crime went down to 1%, because white collar crime would still happen. Abuse would still happen. You think the Mexican cartels are going to suddenly stop selling drugs because, no. If you're really an addict, you're going to keep doing drugs. So I just cannot buy a premise. And people are like, oh, well, poverty is down, so less people are doing drugs. Rich people do drugs. There's way more millionaires doing drugs than poor people. Like, millionaires do drugs. So
to be fair, the majority of people that I've met that were on drugs had
money. Because poor people can't afford drugs.
Exactly.
Wasn't that the whole point of Breaking Bad?
Kind of.
Like, rich people buy drugs too. So and white collar crime, greed will never stop. People will never stop trying to game the system. People will never stop being greedy. I just don't buy that. Like because you made. The other thing is, a lot of people have brought this up. There are trained killers. There are trained soldiers who cannot kill. Murder is actually really hard. And I've read interviews. Even serial killers say the first one is hard. Like the first one is like it's hard because you don't know how to do it. It's actually hard to kill a human. We're resilient human. If you don't know what you're doing, if you're not really trying, it could take you 12 hours to kill somebody. So the fact that everyone starts murdering, it's like, no, that would not be the first crime. People would not murder each other. People would rob. People would loot. People would burn shit. And that was another thing I read on, Cracked did a great article on this, so I'm just going to kind of just plagiarize them because I don't care. The reason that the Purge would never be allowed to happen isn't because of murder. It'd be because of fire.
That's true.
If all emergency things were suspended and someone set something on fire, fire burns. Look at what happened to the Great Chicago Fire. The reason that fires don't get out of control like they did now is because we have fire responders.
Right.
Half the city would burn.
Yeah.
So I don't buy that. 2, insurance would go up out of the roof, because the thing, if you're a multimillionaire and you know it, and your family knows that, like, you have the only thing keeping them from your money is death, then you would make it so that if you were murdered on the Purge night, even if your family didn't do it, no one gets your money. So I just feel like people would still murder. I feel like insurance would go out of the roof. And the biggest thing is, this is the thing I've never understood, is no one would allow pedophilia. Because pedophilia would be rampant. This is what would happen. A bunch of pedophiles would kidnap kids a few hours before the Purge, knowing cops aren't going to come looking for them. Spend the next 12 hours raping and horribly torturing children, and then give them back to their parents like, haha, can't touch me. Like, no, no one would allow that. That'd be like, nope, sorry, not happening. So that's why I have a fucking problem with this movie, is there's too many plot holes. Now, I understand what people are saying, like, oh, it was just meant to be a fun thriller. No. There's too many plot holes. If you're going to make a movie like The Purge, you have to think of every single fucking plot hole. And there's so many of them. So, like...
Well, maybe not every single one, but not leave so many
But, like,
glaring
mine.
ones.
That's a big one that a lot of people bring up.
The biggest one was the fire.
The fire and the pedophilia are the two. Because the thing is, though...
And the drugs. You have a great point with those
People
drugs.
are not going to stop. So unless they make... Right. Now, the one thing I can think about is, did they make drugs legal?
Never touched on.
But it's never touched on. But the thing is... The reason they couldn't make drugs legal, the other problem I have with it is that the reason what about hospitals? Well, I mean, women women go into labor. The thing is, you'd be like, well, all the women that were close to labor would just go to the hospital. Okay, fine, but women can go into labor at 23, 24 weeks, and they have to get to the hospital.
Yep.
But you're not planning on going to the hospital at 24 weeks pregnant, and you couldn't have every single pregnant woman between the, the weeks of like 20 weeks and 40 weeks in your hospital. That would be a couple thousand women. The hospitals wouldn't be able to hold that many people. And also, do they get rid of the people that are already in the hospitals? Like, fuck you, people in comas. Sucks to be you that you got into a coma during the purge, bitches. Like, are the hospitals still open, just like locked? Or do they like, okay, everyone, like, how does that work? That's nonsense. But I'm just saying, like, thinking about it like that, like pregnant women, people who have heart conditions, strokes.
Right.
There's too many variables. You couldn't have, what if it's an emergency and someone, like, babies are still going to be babies. Babies are still going to pick stuff up and choke on it. So can you still call emergency people to be like, hey, my kid is choking on a penny. How do I do, like, CPR? They're going to be like, sucks to be you that your kid's choking on a penny. Purge night, bitches. Although I bet you if that is true, doctors love
Purge night. Woo!
Doctors love purge night because it's the one night a week they can't be paid. So they're like, purge night, woo! And the other thing is, I don't feel like people would murder. I feel like people would have purge parties, but it'd be like doing crack and stealing TVs. The other thing is, another thing that crack brought up that I thought was really good is you would never be able to trust anybody. True. I love Robbie more than anyone on the planet, but I don't think he would hurt me. But if I knew for a fact he could get away with murdering me, I'd probably be like, you need to go over there. We need to lock ourselves in rooms.
Who the fuck are you kidding? You're the one that would kill me out of anything. I would never kill you.
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, think about how many days my brother was really, really mad at me. What if I got him mad on a purge night? I mean, my brother did go to prison for murder. I'm just saying. So, that's another story for another day. But I'm just saying, like, shit happens.
It does.
So, I don't know. I just feel like you'd never be able to trust anyone. I feel like the economy would tank. And that's something they did bring up. The economy would tank because there'd be no way to insure your shit.
Yeah.
The only thing that would go up would be defense. But the thing is, people would stop going to work. People would stop having children.
God knows I would.
I wouldn't have had Max if I knew the purge was a thing. I'd be like, no, screw that shit. I'm not having a kid. I wouldn't have probably gotten married. I probably would live in the woods by myself. But I'm just saying, like, that's my problem I have with the purge is that it was a cool concept, but it should have been A, a political thriller, and B, it asked too many questions. I don't think they meant it to be, though. I think it was just supposed to be a cool concept for a slasher film.
Yeah.
And they didn't realize it was going to open up this many questions.
It was supposed to be The Strangers mixed with Panic.
And another one thing I want to say is I read it a lot on message boards. Everyone's like, oh, I would totally purge. You would be the people that are like, oh, I would totally purge are the first bitches who would be crying in the fucking corner. The people who would be the actual purgers are the quiet ones like me who'd be like, no, I wouldn't participate. No, fuck you all. I would kill all you bitches.
In what world are you the quiet one?
You know what I'm saying? It's the people like me that are like, okay, logically this makes no sense. That would be the people who are like, oh yeah, I would totally be just killing bitches. You'd be the first one raped. So let's just all shut our mouths. So the thing is, men, if there's no laws, it's illegal to rape men too. Just remember. I don't know why people only seem to think rape only happens to women. Actually, men are more likely to be raped than women. So because of prison populations. Yeah. So men are more likely to be raped. But anyways, that's not important. Point of the matter is, I feel like they made a movie and they didn't think of all the all the plot holes that could have happened. So if you're going to write a movie like that, what's the word I'm thinking of? That not conceptual, but like, I guess conceptual. Yeah. If you're going to write a movie with that much of a concept, you literally need to have an answer for every single question. Because don't get me wrong, there's always going to be plot holes. Because there's actually plot holes in real life. Yes. Like there are real murder cases. If you hear about them, you're like, how did that happen? Like, how did that happen? Mm-hmm. I mean, this random happenstance does happen in the real world.
Yes,
like,
it does.
There are so many crimes that it was like they only got away because somebody did something stupid. Like one of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims got away. Yeah. A cop found him and sent him back. Like that could have ended Jeffrey Dahmer right there, but instead it didn't. Crazy shit happens in the real world. So I'm not saying you have to account for every plot hole. That'd be impossible. If you had a completely plot hole-less movie, that'd be like, I'd give you an Oscar. Thank you for listening to my rant.
A emotional rant by Brooke Heatley. All right, well, that takes us out of it. So until next time, I've been Robbie.
I'm Brooke.
I think it's time to close the book on this week.